Hello, welcome to I Read This Book with Chris. With me, Chris. Today we will be discussing the December 1960 issue of Analog Science, Fact, and Fiction. There we go. While discussing that, I shall be drinking some Pinot Grigio. Totally didn't come out of a box. It's actually pretty good for box wine. December 1960 edition. Analog Science, Fact, and Fiction is a old science fiction magazine. I believe they're just called Analog now. I believe they are still running. In this edition, there is The Longest Voyage by Poul Anderson, which is a story about people who crashed on an alien planet and they lost all their technology, so they are traveling the ocean, trying to figure out if there is any good technology on this planet, and if so, how to use it to get off the world. There's The K Factor by Harry Harrison, which is a military, political, spy-ish, thriller-ish thing. Not exactly my cup of tea. There is The Serial Occasion for Disaster by Mark Phillips, which I only have part 2 of, so I didn't touch that. There's also The Untouchable by Stephen A. Callis Jr., which is a short story. It is really funny, actually. This scientist loner who doesn't like to write things down until he's got everything perfect invented this device that allows you to walk through walls. And he showed it to this guy saying, hey, if I die, I want you to know about it, and you can, give it to some other scientists, and they'll be able to figure it out. And then the inventor passes away, and the guy who isn't a scientist brings it over, explains what it does by walking through walls. And then as he tosses it on the desk of the person who's supposed to be looking at it, the switch goes off, and so there it is, phased out. You can still see it, but it's untouchable. You can pass through it, which I thought was a pretty funny idea. The 2 main stories I'd like to talk about today is Gun for Hire by Mack Reynolds and Man of Action by Donald E. Westlake. Both of these are names I've heard of before. I believe Donald E. Westlake made a big series that grew into something I don't know a whole lot about. And then Mack Reynolds I've heard before, but I don't think maybe I've read one of his short stories in a collection. They are both very similar stories. They're both about a man set in 1960 who is brought into the future by people from the future in order to solve a political problem. Gun for Hire by Mack Reynolds. This guy, Joe Prantera, is a hitman for the mob, and he's going out about to do a hit, and these guys plop him from his time, bring him into the far future, need him to do a hit. The world is so advanced, there are plenty to go around. Money no longer exists because of this and their advances in technology. There's no need for police. There's no need for war. There are basically every continent is its own country. They're all, on friendly terms with each other. There's this guy who has some new ideas, and these ideas are fascistic. They need him to come take this guy out. That was their plan, is to bring him from the past into the future so he can go do the hit, and then presto changeo, they'll go to the doctors will make sure they don't do this again, and all's well that ends well. However, this mobster, once he realizes the situation, realizing if he does what they want him to do, the doctors will go, some psychiatrists of some sort, and they make it unclear, but some sort of medicine, whether it's, whatever, talk therapy or a drug or a laser shot at his head. They're going to change him, this hitman, so he doesn't go and do that anymore. And he doesn't want that, because he likes the way that he is. So when he goes there to pull the hit, he goes to the guy, this proto-fascist, and tells him, hey, I'll be on your side here. I can come and fix everything for you. I know how to use violence unlike anyone else. Basically says, me and you can rule the world together. I wouldn't say it's dark, gritty, maybe. Sort of got the feel of like an old noir. Not exactly, like a sci-fi version of that. The other story has a very different feel. The whole story takes place in this room. Roger wakes up in a room in the future. Everything is silver, gold, or black. He starts talking to himself and realizes the room is talking back to him. Everything is made out of this advanced futuristic plastic, which makes it unaging and unbreakable. And he learns that the machines of this time have, though the world once again is so nice and futuristic, the machines have taken over, everyone gets what they need, but things are in a rough spot. Things have plateaued, there's no change, everything's the same, and the machines are worried because no one no longer has the ability to do anything, because everyone lives such an easy life. They don't actually have the feeling or the longing to change. He learns he's the 17th man, I don't say man, person they've pulled out of the 20th century. They're trying to figure out what is missing, and they do so by making him ask a bunch of questions. So it's a game with 20 questions. And he says, well, what you need someone who's willing to go and to change things. And they're like, no, that's not going to work. That's what everyone else says, but none of the people of this time period are those kinds of people. So it ends with, he doesn't say who it is. However, we had decided, it said, that the change would have to be made within the people of our own time. We are looking for a way to make them similar. I know, interrupted Roger. That's where you're making your mistake. They are similar already. You've had 17 failures. Do you see what that means? The people of my century are exactly the same as the people of yours. The only difference is that they have leaders. Without a leader, they act just the way the people of this time do. Of course, said the voice. It had apparently given up the practice of speaking only when asked questions. The failure of the other 17 puzzled us. We hadn't expected it from the 20th century men. Do you have a particular leader in mind? Certainly, said Roger, though he didn't. He thought rapidly. A sociologist, a physicist? All at once he smiled. I have solved your problem, he said with finality, and mine, and everyone else's, he added to himself. I don't think he speaks English, though, Roger said. He speaks Russian, but I can positively assure you there will be a great change here if you will bring him. That's all right, the voice said. So, obviously, some great Russian leader, whether that's Lenin or Stalin or someone else, I don't quite know. But that's where it ends. Basically, him saying, what you need to do is send me back in time, destroy this, grab this leader and destroy the time machine, and you'll be able to get that change you want. I found it funny that not only are these stories in the same, what's it called? Not edition. That not only are these in the same magazine, but these are the two short stories right next to each other. There's not any in between. And they're both basically the same if you got the same prompt, but gave them to two slightly different writers. The second one is a little more comedic, a little funnier. The first one's a little grittier, but they're both about the concept of the worry of fascism, the worry of totalitarianism, and if we go and have the perfect world, it's still gonna come in here. It'll still be here. Whether it's because it's something that comes up organically, like in the first story, and it'll need to be stepped out, or if it's society needs it, and without it, we will go around creating our need for it. There are always going to be people or the government who are, it's just gonna happen. So, 1960, so this is before we've been to the moon. Soviet Union's very strong. Soviet Union's been around for, 40-something years? Before things get too crazy, but there's still that threat out there. This is still in the time where people, I mean, a lot of bad things have happened in Soviet Russia by this time, obviously. But there are still people who are willing to lie and have the impression that it's good. And I don't think these authors are saying it's a good thing. I don't know if that's what these stories are saying. I don't think they're saying it's a bad thing. I think they're just saying it's a thing that's going to happen. It's an interesting world we live in because for certain periods of time, people's minds are just all caught up on one thing and all thinking one thing's going to happen. And then time changes and it's complete, like, we don't worry about it anymore. We don't worry about Soviet Russia anymore. We do worry about Russia. We still worry about communism. But the biggest communist state is no longer there. Pick up these old magazines, sci-fi magazines, if you find them. Not all the stories are going to be good. We had 3 good ones in here, and then 3 ones that were okay. Poul Anderson's one was actually pretty good. Not a whole lot interesting to talk about. Alrighty, thank you for watching.